Hello, everyone, and welcome to round 7 of the Ukraine against England solidarity match. And we're going to see the match between GM Michael Adams and GM Andrei Volikitin. We're up to the 7th game now, and this is where it's at. Oh, no, that was not ideal. Wait, well, I'm going to sort that out. I'm going to sort that out. Someone keep talking in the middle. And I'll just log it in.
Yeah, so it's a critical moment because Mickey needs to win both games to stay in the match, and obviously with the black pieces, that's particularly tough to do. If White's in a mood to be happy to make a draw, then it's always very hard to generate winning chances with black at this level. But I think, well, from what I've seen of today's game so far, he's made a reasonable shot at it.
Yes, we'll be there in just a second. And just here we go.
You're in.
I'm in.
That's good.
Okay. And here we go. Okay. There we go.
Excellent.
So we've got what? Rook and minor piece endgame.
Yes.
4 pawns each. And so Andrei's white, Mickey's black, and Mickey's just played this centralizing move, rook d5.
I think he's probably just recaptured a rook on d5.
Yeah.
I think he's just recaptured. So,
if anything, I think I'd prefer to be black here.
Yeah, perhaps. I'm just wondering if... Oh, okay. White's played a4, so what I was about to say no longer applies. But yeah, a4 looks like... So I think the problem may be that if black ever plays b5 and exchanges pawns on b5, then white can immediately come in with the rook and annoy the knight. Is that the problem? You sort of go rook a6, king f7, rook, and if you're playing for a draw, you then go rook a7 and possibly rook a6 again.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be hard to make progress.
Yeah.
And black has all the way through the game. Black's had this interesting g5 break on the other side, but I don't think this g5 break somehow is going to work anymore.
So, if you tried to do it now...
Well, I mean, most of the game, it's had kind of middle game implications to do with the position of White's king and stuff. I don't think it makes a lot of sense in this ending. So I think black kind of has to look to the queen. So, I mean, it doesn't lose or anything here, but does that look tempting for black? I'm not sure it does.
Nothing much, right?
Well, I mean, you could take rook takes e5 and then rook b1 again or something. I don't know. I just... Well, maybe that's not... No, maybe not. Maybe then b5 and black. But, I mean, it ought to be a draw. I'm just looking for ways that black can kind of try to keep it alive, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the thing of this endgame, I think, I would say I also prefer black because the knight is better than bishop, obviously. I mean, before d5. I mean, because the bishop is in the dark square and there are lots of dark square pawns. But the thing is that usually if you want to win in such endgame, you need to have at least 2 weaknesses so that you can make an attack. But now I can't see that white has any serious weakness. I would say a4.
Maybe this one? Is that a little bit weak? You could get your rook... you can't really get your rook round. But
you can't get, and it's protected well by the king and the bishop. So I would say it's very hard for black now.
Yeah.
Also, the a4 pawn is hard to get, and you can't really capture it or attack on it.
No. And if it gets to a5, then this one could become a bit backwards.
I mean, I'm thinking if you just look at the king side, maybe black could try to go rook d3 to prepare g5. Sort of. But this is probably just me.
So in other words, if
G5 I'm just sort of now trying to prepare a tactical kind of g5.
Yeah.
But in the context of white going rook b1 and everything, I suspect that's a little bit slow. But Well, I mean, it's worth considering maybe. But, white could just play king g2.
Yeah.
And then you need to consider whether g5 followed by f4 is, sets white any problems at all. I mean, none of these things are going to be clearly better for black or something. I just wonder if this can be a way to pose a problem still.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I doubt it.
Yeah.
Right.
Now you only have one pawn on f5, and it's just one. It's 2 weeks, not enough.
Yeah. No, that's probably true.
Shall we see how they got here?
Yeah.
So e4. All the games have been starting e4. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4.
Well, and actually, all of Andrei's whites have reached this position.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we've had a lot of variety at that point.
So c3.
Yeah, so he's finally played c3. I think he played castles in all the other white games, no? And we discussed c3 in one of these. And it now occurs to me that maybe one good argument for going... Because castles are, it's a perfectly legitimate move order, but I couldn't see many obvious pluses to it. But maybe one plus is that you cause black to forget to be ready for this variation at the crucial moment. It's sort of quite a nice dummy to then switch to this line. I don't know whether that was... I don't know how devious he is.
Knight f6 and d4. Okay.
Yeah, so Andrei completely changed the system, I mean, from the previous games. And I'm not sure about this opening, because if I'm white, I don't like to play this opening because I think it's hard to win. But if Andrei wants to play for draw, maybe it can be helpful, because it will be a close position, and it's very hard for black to make any progress. So,
well, to be fair, in this line with e5, there are quite a few recent games, and I think white must have been, people like Magnus have played this, and people who I know play for a win, Gawain, and people like have all been on the white side. I think that there must be. It reaches relative. Well, I always think of this as a new line, and then I looked actually earlier today and discovered it was played by Steinitz. So
yeah,
it's slightly taken the wind out of my "this is a new line" sense, but it's recently become trendy again. I mean, the line that they played in today's game, there were a lot of very recent games, but not many from 10 years ago or something.
Okay.
So, I remember that when I was young, when I was a beginner, I was taught by my teachers of this variation already, and then for some reasons we stopped to play that. And recently, I've seen many games from my students about this variation, so it's very interesting.
I mean, white used to take on d4 more, but then bishop b4 check really is objectively very, very comfortable for black.
Oh, instead of e5.
Well, yeah, we discussed this line the other day, but there's one nice twist from the point of view of this game, that here white can try bishop d2. I mean, knight c3 is the fun move, but it's only a fun move. It's not really really correct. But here, people have started taking on e4 with black sometimes. But before that, they always used to take on d2 and play d5. And then there's this line where, so bishop takes d2 instead, knight takes, and then d5.
Yeah.
And then there's this really annoying thing where people started sometimes using this for white as a drawing weapon. So after takes, knight takes, they'd play queen b3. And black's a little worse if they just play knight ce7. It's one of those IQP positions where there's reasonable pressure. So black's best move is knight a5 instead. At which point I've seen games which finish queen a4 check, knight c6, queen b3, and so on.
Yeah.
And in a way, I think it's to Andrei's credit that he wouldn't go down a road like this. I think if you have a match like this would be a very
solidarity match. Yes,
it's a very double-edged way of reaching the finish line, because your sponsor could easily say this isn't quite what I was after. This isn't quite the entertainment I was looking for. So I think it's very good that he played e5 instead. But this line, it's.
But it has been a great match, hasn't it? I mean, there've been some really good.
Whatever happens today, there have been a majority of decisive games, and that's pretty impressive as a match at this level. Yes, it's been really interesting.
Yeah.
So back to e5, which is the modern Steinitz move. So yeah, d5 is a must in almost all these positions. It's incredibly important to. There are one or two exceptions, but in most cases that's always the move. And white doesn't have any, taking on f6 is no good, I think, and white has to move the bishop.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if you take on f6, you're going to watch us
Take the
take
bishop. I think now black is just better, and black has a great advantage here.
Yeah, this looks really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are similar lines, but I think you'd rather not have played c3 at this point, because unless you can make something out of c takes d4, if you go queen e2 check or something, black's later going to go d3 and win a hefty tempo, I think. So.
Yeah. Okay, so d5's played and bishop e5. And knight e4, I think, is always the move.
Yeah, I think it's very important for black to go forward here. I mean, I guess in principle, the one thing you have to do in principle is make sure it's coming back again, because after c takes, it's kind of trapped. But of course, there's nothing to attack it without untrapping it. So it will find a way out. C takes, and then
bishop back.
Yeah, people play bishop b4 check as well, but I think that positionally, if you make exchanges on d2, it probably, if white plays some bishop takes c6 at the right moment after exchanges on d2, there's a chance of kind of white playing against the c pawns and trying to control the dark squares. I mean, I'm not saying it's as simple as all.
So I can't even
remember, whether they go knight takes or bishop. Yeah, I don't know. It's just in general, it's harder for black to make this kind of line work. I think you'd want to keep the bishop, wouldn't you? You'd want to go knight takes d2 rather than bishop takes.
Right, knight takes.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true.
But here, I think if black castles, I'm not sure if white can maybe even take on c6 already. I saw some game which went
things like this. Yeah.
Well, I think the funny idea is that if they take back, you can play rook c1, because if they stop you castling with bishop a6, you have queen a4. And if they then take on d2, actually king takes is very harmonious. There's nothing much wrong with white's position, and the king looks super safe.
So. Here.
Yeah, but I think just queen c2. I just think white has a lot of positional trumps, and that king isn't in any real danger, I think, is the...
Yeah, interesting.
That may well be true. That sort of feels true-ish.
Queen e7, and then you're threatening to come around to that way.
Well, I'm very happy to trade queens, so I'll just go queen c3 then, I think.
Okay.
I don't think... I think the endgames are going to be very pleasant for white.
Fine.
I mean, I'm not saying this is like a clear advantage or something, but I think it's one of the sort of reasons that bishop b6 is now considered more respectable than bishop b4 check, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Mickey played bishop b6, and then Andrei knight c3.
Yeah.
Castle bishop b3.
I mean, the other thing about bishop b6 is black can target the d4 pawn in the coming moves a bit. There is a certain degree of pressure on it that white needs to take account of.
Yeah, because now already the threat is taking on f3.
It may or may not be, because pawn takes isn't always a bad...
Oh, it can't really be, can it? Because white's gone h3.
Yes, exactly.
Even encouraging it.
Is fine.
Yes, okay. So I would be inclined to think about taking on f3 here.
Yeah, so make it takes later in the game. After
too. I don't know. Pawn takes, and then I suppose the problem is that you might...
Okay.
Well, I mean, what Mickey did suggests to me that black would rather keep that knight on e4 and trade the bishop on b6. I guess the worry would be after knight takes c3, b takes, whether that bishop on b6 is ever going to play.
Right.
It is kind of potentially quite out of play, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the argument for, bishop h5, which, as you say, kind of loses a tempo otherwise. But I think that must be the reasoning. It's a funny piece, that knight on e4, because sometimes it can look almost trapped, but it's actually a very important sort of pivotal point of black's operation at the same time. So.
Yeah.
I can see why black might avoid this position.
I'm looking at queen. This might be silly, but queen h4.
That's the Alekin's influence in you. This
Yeah.
very Alekin's
No,
defense.
but then with the idea of knight takes e5.
Yeah. It's very, very crude. I'm going to go f4 and stop that, and then I think we're going to.
You're gonna stop these crude ideas.
Well, the thing is, if I go queen g4 or something, if you ever take, that helps to mend my pawn structure, and I think I like the bishop pair in that case.
Yeah,
queen g4 is exciting, no, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I suppose
that one will
it'll come
wait
to life again. Yeah.
Its day will come. It waits for its day.
Yeah.
So
but you come around here, right?
Yeah, that's also very Alekin's. You're right, of course. I mean, I could, but I think after knight e7, I go queen g4, and then you can't actually stop the exchange of queens.
Can't do it. Okay.
I don't think you have time. It's a nice idea. I mean, if you get the knight to f5, I might buy into the idea too, but I hope that queen g4 stops that.
It does. Okay.
So what?
I mean, I could see the appeal. Let's
go for knight e7 instead of.
Good idea. I like that.
Yes.
Good idea.
Okay. And then if I go bishop d3 or something, maybe?
Bishop d3.
Well, the bishop doesn't seem to have much reason on b5 after knight e7.
Yeah, I'm thinking about plan of f6 or f5, something like this, just to break the pawn structure. Is that possible? Like let's say f6, because I wanna just force you to take or make some reactions on it.
Okay, I guess that I go f4, although I don't feel very sure about this.
Yeah, so what do you feel about the position after, let's say, f takes and then f takes, or let's say knight f5 or queen d7, something like that? So do you think the white king is okay, or is not that safe?
I think the white king's probably okay. I'm going to go queen g4. Actually, I'll probably do that against knight f5 or queen d7. I just want to go queen g4 and try to. I think my hope is that the bishop on d3 is much better than the one on b6.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And then I sort of think maybe if that's true, then my king will kind of look after itself. But I'm not at all sure. I mean, I'm quite willing to be corrected on this. But I think, if I get time to go king e2 and rook g1 or something, then it feels to me like I might be the one with the attack.
Yeah. So how about knight 4? I'm thinking about that.
Knight 4 now.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a bit provocative, isn't it?
It is a bit provocative. I'm wondering, am I that worried by the check? I mean, if I just go.
You want me to go with bishop g5, and you're going to play
queen g5.
Yeah, you're going to take that off.
Yeah, I see what you're doing.
See her game.
I see.
Okay, if I just go king e2 now and.
Yeah.
Is knight 3 okay here?
Oh.
Okay, if I go bishop f5, do you just have to go out again?
You go where?
Yeah.
Bishop f5 now, yes.
Well, if I do, then maybe the knight just has to retreat. I don't know. Oh, but then Then there is actually bishop g5 because we've avoided the vicious trick. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, now bishop g5 is strong. Yeah, so I think you can't go in there in the first place, probably, unless you do a very impressive queen sack for 2 minor pieces.
Yeah. It's not working. I
don't think it's working. I mean, there's some nice. The knight on f5 is beautiful, but it's not beautiful enough for a queen.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I don't think people do take on f3, but there's probably a good reason. I don't know if that is the good reason.
Yeah.
But as you say, Andrei's playing h3 and encouraging the exchange, far from being worried about it. So.
That surprised me, yeah, because I was wanting to take anyway for black, but he doesn't. He wants to go bishop back. Queen c2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now bishop, I think there were games with bishop g6 as well here, including maybe...
Right, just
I
like
can't remember, some game involving Magnus. I can't remember if he's white or black, but that ought to be a fairly fundamental point, really. But I mean, that's a possible move. But there's a very clear strategy in bishop a5, I think. First thing to say, black wants to play f5 very much.
Okay.
And you can't do it now because of knight takes d5 with nasty tricks again. So.
Right, so this is just to pin here.
It's to pin and prepare.
Pin
Either to take or to play f5. Yeah, probably if you got the chance to play f5 without taking, you might do it now. I don't know.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So white gets out of the pin by castling. And then Mickey takes.
Yeah, so here's the... Sorry, in this, once he's castled, then f5 still fails to knight d5. So he has to take, to be consistent with that plan.
And I suppose the difference now also is that now white's castled.
Sorry, you took this one now, yeah?
Yeah.
Ah, sorry, I'm getting confused. Okay.
Yeah, this happened.
Yeah, now he's castled. Well, I think he's planning to play... I think it's sort of implicit in black's strategy. He's going to play this position with the knight pair against the bishop pair, which is really interesting, partly just because it is the knight pair against the bishop pair. And, there aren't that many positions where people are happy to go into that. It's
Knight back. King g2.
I think queen f5's been played, but king g2 looks very sensible. It's consolidating nicely.
So we're still quite solidly in theory then.
I think this is the position specifically where, when I looked, there were quite a few games in the last couple of years and almost nothing before that. So it really is, a pretty topical line.
So Mickey now goes for the double knights against Andrei's double bishops.
Yeah, in order to play f5, which is a really important move because it gives that knight a solid square on e6, which is, I think, the main point of it. Sort of textbook blockading knight on e6.
Yeah, and if you try and do that without f5, then you might run into this.
Well, I think you might be able to meet f4 with f5 and pretty much transpose to the same position. But I think if you try and do it without f5, you'd be in all sorts of trouble. Yeah, I'm not sure that you couldn't do it the other way around, but there may be some quirky reason why you can't. Yeah.
So here we go. So this, you can already see the endgame we saw before. You can already see that being set up now with the...
You can, although there's some interesting middle game possibilities too. I mean, what do you think? What do you think of this when you first see it? I'm not sure what I would make of it.
Yeah, so actually when I first saw it, I think I prefer black because the knights feel looks good in this kind of close position. But actually, engine prefers white, or the engine say that it's at least an equal position. I would say I can't really see any plans from white side, but for black, I think black has more ideas like g5 in the future. So if I prefer to choose black if I can have a chance to choose.
That's interesting. Yeah, and Natasha, you must have some sympathy like that with that because it does look there is something very Alekhines about it, with all this queen h4 and g5 stuff going on.
Yeah,
exactly. I would too.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like they have now agreed a draw.
No, have they? Okay.
Yes. Okay, which actually will mean that means Andrei will win the match. So because he was 2 points ahead going into this game with 2 to play, so
has won the match. I assume they don't play tomorrow now. Is that right?
To Andrei, I don't know whether they still play their game.
I don't know that definitively, but I think matches usually end when somebody's got the required points, but I haven't heard for sure, but I'm assuming that was probably it. I think Mickey made a pretty decent effort today, as we'll see. There were some quite interesting moments.
Yeah.
Even this position, I mean, it's very unbalanced. It's a good... you've already got that on your side. There's imbalance. Yeah, g5 is obviously an interesting plan for black, and queen h4 is a move I think black would play if it were his move.
Mm.
In fact, I think part of the idea of queen a4 maybe to try and deflect the queen from being able to go to h4.
Yeah, so that will happen in the game, like queen a4. I think
Yes.
that's very clever because it's kind of prevent queen h4. But I'm wondering if black plays queen h4 here, just sacrifice.
What if you carry right on and do it?
Okay, so the way to test it must be to be maximum materialistic. So I'm going to take on c6 and hope for the best.
Takes.
B takes.
And again.
Takes.
Takes. All right. So what are we going to take on? F4?
I'm not sure, but I'm thinking about maybe rook e8 first, and I'm not going to take the pawn with my knight, but I'm going to go for g5.
Oh, wow, okay. Now I'm scared. Okay, I'm going to take on d5 anyway. I'm going to take on d5 partly in the hope that you play queen takes f4. Did you see a game? Games are always ending like this, where people do forks and forget that they're pinned.
Mm.
There was a game the other day apparently where, like even the arbiter had to step in because both players allowed the move or something. Of course, queen takes c6 check wins here as well. So but g5 will be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so how are you going to drive my king to a square where it's in real trouble? So I'm just going to take that. I'm going to keep taking everything you throw.
You're taking this?
I'm taking everything.
We're going to go f4, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm just going to go bishop d2. I'm trying to do this with maximum materialism and see if I
Okay, you can try that.
Merge.
So are we going to just go f3 as well? Oh, no, because we've maybe...
What worries me for you is that if you go f3, my king feels safer on h2 than it does before you play f3.
All right, so let's take g5 first then.
I would also think about king h8 to try and take it with the horse. But okay, queen takes, I'll go king h2.
Yeah.
And the rook can come out, I mean, white's rook. So probably it's not that...
Yeah, I'm worried about rook g1 coming now.
So probably king h8 first.
King here.
That can have more...
Now I could have pushed it too far, but I'm hoping that I can play something like either queen f3 to g4 or king h2, knight takes g5, queen g2. I'm hoping one of those is going to...
Which one do you want to try first? King, queen f3?
I was hoping you'd choose for me. That was the plan. Okay, I'll go king h2, but I really don't know.
King h2. All right. So what if we take on...
Knight g5.
Yeah, then I'm going queen g2 and
queen g2.
Hanging on with my fingernails.
What if rook g8?
I hope rook g1 or something. I don't know.
Wow.
Rook g1?
Okay. What if we take on h3?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but like queen h3, then queen f2, rook g2. Or, oh, not really.
I'm just going to sit here and pretend I'd foreseen all that. Queen h5 might be a move.
Oh, threatening knight f3.
Well, that was the hope.
Yeah.
Is that, or is bishop f4 just good? No, sorry, knight f3 wins the queen. That was the idea, yeah. Queen h5 is actually...
Right. Queen h5.
A bit awkward, right?
Yeah.
When I say a bit awkward, I might be dead lost.
We say the rook just... Oh, then we still win the queen.
You still win the queen. Okay.
So the queen has to move out, but then knight f3 is going to be really strong. Probably.
Yeah, I think you win the queen one way or the other. This is just good for black, right?
Isn't this just winning then?
I mean, I do think I was outrageously greedy, but I just wanted to check whether I could meet your idea by being outrageously greedy. And I can't. And if I can't, then yeah, it's well worth... I mean, g5 is the fun thing to try almost all the way through this game, really.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Oh, so that was... So that we were looking there.
That was the quickest. No, that was queen h4, that's right.
Instead of queen d7.
Yeah.
But okay, you don't have to take on c6.
Yeah, but I kind of think I do kind of feel that queen a4 is played to try and deflect us from the idea of queen h4. So if we can't meet queen h4 with bishop c6, it feels like it was a bit of a bluff.
Yeah.
Which I suspect it wasn't. And I think queen h4 is really interesting for that reason.
Okay. So
But okay, I want to do the early moves of this up to queen takes d5, because that feels to me like the right way to do it. And then after g5, I want to have a think and be a little more cautious. Actually, I want to be a lot more cautious afterwards. So let me go rook h1 and hope that, because
rook h1 you're going.
Well, I don't, it seems in retrospect that f takes g5 does give black a couple of tempi and enables the knight to come to scary squares much more quickly.
Right. But what about this? Takes.
Yeah. Okay, and then I'm just going bishop d2.
Okay.
So probably still king h8 because I want to free my rook and knight.
Yeah. Yes, good idea.
Yeah. Okay, and then I was hoping I could go rook ag1.
Okay.
Yes, that's interesting.
Well, it feels a little bit safer than what I did last time, but that's not a very high bar.
Yeah.
By any means.
Let's try rook d8 and
d8.
G8, yeah. Is it possible to take the h3 pawn back, or it's not that good idea?
Oh, what, after rook takes g1?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even sure. I think I'm taking back with the rook, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I think I'm taking back with the rook. And then I'm going queen g2 at the end and hoping that's a better ending or something.
Wait,
that's queen d3 check.
Queen d3. That's
you have queen d3 check. That's a bit of a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go king e1 then and hope anyway.
And f3, like you can't go for queen g7 or queen d8. Wait. Oh, wait, I mean queen g2, queen d3, king e1.
No, sorry, I want to go king e1 there. Yeah, and instead of f3, you were
probably
going...
not f3.
Queen d3 anyway, maybe.
Queen d3, maybe. Still queen d3.
Yeah, now if I move my queen, I'm going to get mated by queen b1 and f3. So I'm not defending this very well. I don't. My sense is that white should be okay, but maybe I have to take back on g1 with the king, not the rook.
Mm-hmm.
So here, king takes.
Well, perhaps it looks a bit risky as well.
Yeah.
I had a dream last night in which I just suddenly couldn't play chess at all. And I'm feeling a bit like that now. It feels to me like this dream is coming true this minute. But
yeah, so how about knight g5 in this position?
Well, you can even do your... you could do that queen h5 again because you've got that threat.
Yeah. Both looks good, like knight g5 and queen h5.
Do that first.
Mm-hmm.
Threatening h3.
Okay. What's your next move?
Could be knight takes h3.
Okay, it could well be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm also threatening knight e4 and rook g8. So looks
okay, no, it looks dangerous. It looks dangerous. So why is queen a4 not a bluff? That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I'm a little bit surprised. I probably didn't play that very well. It doesn't feel like it should be as strong as this, but I'm singularly failing to defend it. So queen h4, okay. I mean,
queen h4. We
but one thing we know for sure about the position is that if this were possible, it's what people would do, right? It's obviously what black would love to do.
Thanks for the follow, Gambito f4. So. Well, okay. What are you not doing with the queen? You're not defending the d pawn now.
You're not defending the c pawn. Yeah, the c pawn mainly, and then the d pawn as well. But
yeah.
Yeah, but I just ignore the part of the queen side and focus on the
I saw you were. Yes.
it's one of those things where if you win the game, they say you focused on the king side, and if you lose the game, you neglected the queen side.
Yeah.
This is how annotations always work. So I'm going to take the knight anyway, because it just seems to me, otherwise the move was a bluff, right?
Yeah.
One last try. I'm going to try and defend better.
And you're going to take.
I've got to take this pawn.
Rook still rook e8.
We're going to still do the same. Yes. Rook
Okay.
E8. Okay. You don't have to take on d5, I suppose.
No, although it does feel astonishing
Looks
not
like
to.
the move, doesn't it?
It does feel very odd not to.
Because otherwise, I don't see why I can have.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, black would be very tempted to play this, I think.
Yeah, that's still g5.
Yep. No, I know what's coming.
Okay. So you've tried takes there, and you've tried rook h1.
I have. So it's over to you, Natasha.
So I'm going to try because then it's lined up against your king. Although I do know what you're going to do next.
But you do at least get the pleasure of checking with a king.
Yeah, I think you're going to perhaps either maybe take first, right?
Yeah, still take and then king h8.
Okay, so I can check with the king. That's nice. Where do we want to go?
But you need to be careful, because if you do check with the king, then the queen takes f2, following up fairly quickly sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, actually, this is probably really horrible.
But I don't know. Maybe you can do it, because then if you have rook g2, it's no big deal. Unless black gets that knight g5 as well, I don't feel so scared.
It's okay.
Let's try. Let's just try.
So king h8.
Yeah.
And bishop d2 just.
Can I go knight g5 at this moment?
Probably.
Then,
I tell you what, rook takes g5 may not be that bad.
Really? Let's try it.
So I mean, if other things fail, it's certainly, this could be the sort of reason that black doesn't, or even queen f3 and bishop takes f4 next. Rook g1 probably, but.
Yeah, but it seems that if the game really plays like that, black has more chance to win or to get something.
Yeah, but maybe more chance to lose as well. I don't know. If I don't go rook g1, if I just go queen f3, because if I am sacking the exchange, I actually don't want to trade rooks.
Okay.
Queen f3.
Queen f3.
Yeah, I expect the engine will be laughing at all this, but indeed, so may anyone who's listening.
You might want to open up this diagonal, mightn't you?
Well, that's what I'm hoping to do. Yeah, something with. Yeah, that was the kind of plan. I mean, if I take on f4, it is still already 2 pawns for the exchange. So as long as I suspect may be true now, my king is slightly safer than white's king is slightly safer than black, then this might be okay.
Yeah, that looks okay. So how about what if black doesn't play knight g5? Is the black has some other options?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, you could play rook g8. Actually.
Yeah, rook g8. I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, that's a good move.
And then I'm threatening queen f2.
Okay, so takes. You have to go king takes.
I think I can go
No, you played rook takes and mates.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of queen 6 because
you're not afraid. No, none of you are afraid. You're very, very brave. Okay, that's fine.
Well, it feels like white's been very brave now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So if queen f3, you just go knight g5.
Yeah, I think actually that rook g8 just refutes it.
Okay.
I think it's really important not to allow white to give the exchange, but if you play.
So all these lines are looking good for black.
Yeah, so we don't. Yeah, I'm a little bit baffled. I mean, somebody may have switched on an engine and just be laughing by now. But I don't know what to.
Yeah, but I noticed one thing, like in this game, still like Mickey has more time, and this Andrew, he didn't really have that much time. So I'm thinking about if Mickey really plays that line, probably Andrew will spend a long time thinking, and I think it's very likely that he couldn't find all the best moves for White. So I think probably Black can have a greater chance if Mickey.
By the way, if I remember rightly, I think Andrei spent a lot of his time on Queen A4. So it may very well be that
it's the next move. Queen D1 afterwards.
Oh, did he not spend quite a long time on Queen A4?
No, just a minute on that.
Oh, 1 minute. Sorry, I'm completely wrong.
Yeah.
I'm misremembering. It was Queen D1 again. Okay.
Yeah.
So he must have been happy or known or something that Queen H4 isn't reckoned to be sound. Okay, I want one very last try. Queen H4, take. Rook E8. Did we, after Queen takes G5, we did Queen F3, didn't we? That didn't work either.
After G5?
Here.
I think we must have done it.
There.
No, I think that doesn't work either. You're still. I don't see a really convincing way after G5, but there must be something. But of course, it's also true. Even if it's hard to find, it may well be a position where, if you put it on the engine, there is some clever resource, and it's reasonable to assume the opponent will know that.
Yeah.
That's the problem these days with these things. But I agree. I mean, the attack looks really exciting, and it's very interesting to.
All right.
Okay, so definitely play this at Blitz, but before you play it in a real game, you take a careful look.
So Queen D7 was played.
This is more like Mickey's style because he likes to play like solid games and find plan and gradually play positionally rather than tactical chess. So is that maybe it's the reason why I didn't play Queen H4?
I do suspect that I mean, it's still just about sufficiently in theory that I would expect them to have put that on an engine at some point at home, probably. I mean, even if not now, and even if they may have forgotten all the details, I suspect they would probably know whether Black can play Queen H4 in this position. Maybe not, but it's...
Yeah, I think the engine doesn't like Queen H4, but I think...
Oh, is that true? I'm going to... All right, we have to...
Yeah, go on. We know we want to.
Let's put it on the engine. Better put it on then.
I hope it's not going to be +5 or something. We're all going to feel a bit silly.
Are you going to check this engine? I'm not sure about this engine.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, I'm not sure.
Well, someone else, if someone else wants to in the background, check a different engine.
Queen H4 isn't listed, which is why.
All right, go on then. Let's do it.
Yeah, and this engine will show that it's good, but after a few moves, this engine suddenly jumped to like different things. So
yeah.
So I really can't trust this engine.
No, true.
So let's go to the position after Rook AE8 and see if the engine is screaming +4 or something.
Yeah.
I can't actually see the engine here. Can you? What's it saying?
It's saying just slightly better for White. Or draw.
Oh, it's still only slightly. Then it's an interesting... You'd have thought if it's only slightly better for White, then it's an interesting practical try because it's not... You know, if White's moves were... If White had options and safety nets, you would think it would be a lot more than slightly better. What's the move here, out of interest, since I failed lamentably to find it?
Oh
wow! Actually,
H1, you did find it.
No, this is equal. This isn't. This is amazingly good for a sack like this. So either this engine hasn't lost the plot, or
it's following our line.
But after Queen H4, yeah, is that after Queen H4? Does it have some other thing that we missed? Is there some other reason not to go Queen H4? Can we?
No.
No, it is out of line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's mentioning C4 after Rook AE8, but that's very surprising. Wow. Okay. I feel quite good about that. I was worried it was going to say it was sort of +6 or something, and we were all going to look a bit silly. But actually, it's quite tough, isn't it?
In the balance.
So probably Lisa's right, and this is something Mickey could have seriously considered as a practical weapon.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, it's too early in the game and everything will have been put through the engine. Maybe there's a forced draw somewhere or something. I don't know. But it's a very interesting idea.
Yeah, so personally, I mean, for me, when I'm playing and when I see that my opponent had a hard time defending, or maybe when I check that my opponent maybe has time trouble constantly, I will consider playing something which will lead to the situation that I'm worse, but I'm not really afraid. Just create something. Just play something more complicated and give my opponent more trouble and make my opponent think more. Yeah, so that's one of my strategies I like to use when playing.
So I know what's going to happen if I play Lisa now.
Oh yes, Peter does like his time trouble. So
no, I don't like it.
A complicated game. Yeah. A6.
So wait, he played Queen.
Yeah.
He played Queen D1. Oh, the Queen came from C2 before. That's why. So it's not actually an offer of a repetition.
Pedro. So yes, and then knight back.
Yeah.
H4. So now white's going forward on the king's side.
I think white's trying to hold back the scary G5 more than anything else.
Yeah.
But it's also worth mentioning here that if black goes knight G6, white has to go king G3.
Yeah.
It's the first of several positions in this middle game where king G3 is a good move.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other way to defend the 2 pawns, but it does a perfectly good job, and then you can go rook H1 next and H5 or whatever.
Yeah, and the king is quite safe on G3.
King's pretty happy on G3, I think. Kind of. Yeah, it's a very interesting plan. This, so going C5, because you think about what they used to teach you about bishop pairs against knight pairs and things. You would not expect the knights to be opening the position up.
Yeah.
I'm sort of back to my favourite John Watson book again, because he talks about how many times you tend to open the position with the knight pair in order to try to secure squares for the knights.
Yeah, maybe this is the only way where Mickey can find a chance to attack.
I think it's the only way to find squares for the knights is also to increase the scope of the bishop. So it's a really interesting trade-off.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but what about the plan of like still G5? Let's say G6, H6, and then G5. Does it?
I'm not sure about. I mean, I think your own king might get a bit uneasy if you do it with H6 and G6 and G5.
True.
I don't know. I mean, if white sort of goes rook H1 at that point, are you really going to be able to open that up without your own king?
Yeah, not as good as like when the queen is in H4 and then G5.
No, okay. I don't know. It looks very risky then somehow. But on the other hand, next move white plays H5, which really surprised me because it seems to bring the G5 idea back into the game more than it. I mean, when it's on H4, it's doing quite a good job of stopping G5 mostly. I mean, you might sometimes want to look whether there's a G5, H takes, knight takes, F takes, F4, piece sacrifice or something, but I think they're going to be rare.
Yeah, so probably the white's purpose is to prevent knight G6, so that's why white plays like H4, H5.
It's a bit, but it does bring the whole G5 thing back into the game again, so it's an interesting one. But also, I mean, it gains space, it stops knight G6, so you can see. Wait a minute, I see one idea might be that after C5, he's worried that if he takes on C5 without H5, then maybe knight G6, king G3, and knight takes E5 is on. Is that possible?
So if we had it,
it's difficult to analyze because we need to put some other move on the.
Yeah,
I just meant in general. So if we go, I don't know, rook G1, some move, random move, C5, and then you lose the option of taking because after takes we have knight G6, and then you don't have king G3 anymore because of knight takes E5.
Oh yeah, that's.
I think actually that's just true. I doubt if that's controversial. That's just horrible for white.
Looks horrible.
So, I mean, okay, there may be details, and rook g1 is almost certainly not the most testing other move, but
Yeah.
just the idea is there, I think. So c5, c5 is intending to open the position, but it could cause weaknesses for white as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, well, I was thinking, right, because white takes, this helps black to bring the knight in, maybe to the e4 square in some time.
Yes.
Because white doesn't need to take that pawn.
I don't know whether black might even have a plan of something like sacking the exchange with c takes d4, and if c takes, then rook c4. It sort of feels to me like once white doesn't have a light squared bishop, all kinds of things look quite exciting for black.
Okay,
Is that possible?
So if white...
I mean, this is really, this is the first time I didn't think about this at all before. I'm just guessing, but just as a thought, and you can back it up with b5, you can eventually make it uncomfortable for white not to take it, probably.
Right.
And just, that knight pair against the bad bishop once the e2 bishop goes, I kind of think that aesthetically, that's very appealing. I don't know.
That's an interesting idea, Peter.
I don't know how good it is, but it's something I would think about quite seriously if I was playing, I think. I'd probably think about it for too long, actually. But you sort of sympathise with the idea, at least.
Yes.
And by the way, in this position, I think the engine was also considering g5 now.
Oh, instead of knight takes?
Yeah.
I think even here, it's sort of, once white plays h5, it's considering g5 on almost every move.
G5.
Right. Oh, because Mickey spent a long time on knight takes c5.
Well, yeah, he must have been considering g5, and maybe, you can see that I'm sure that he was thinking about it more than he might have done in a different match situation, because it does. And particularly as Andrei was quite relatively short of time at this point, you can see why practically g5 might be a lot of fun to go for.
Yes.
I'm not sure what happens next. I guess white must take it with the h-pawn, I think. And then I would have thought probably knight takes with the idea of going queen g7 after, or something like that. And none of it's as good as Lisa's queen h4, but it still gets the queen over to the king side. So
yeah, and still you can ignore the queen side, ignore the c5 pawn, and focus on king side.
Yeah, that's perhaps true. I mean, this sort of thing, I don't know. Mickey didn't miss a g5, which the engine thinks is good for black or anything like that. But at least the engine was taking them quite seriously and thought it was. And I just thought practically this is quite dangerous, and in the match situation, it might be what you could consider.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will consider it if I'm playing, because I like this kind of complicated positions, especially when my opponent doesn't have time. Actually, I constantly get into time trouble. So the thing I'm really afraid in time trouble is that my opponent deliberately sacrifice pieces or make the position complicated, and then I will definitely make mistakes.
The worst thing in time trouble is moves you haven't predicted, right? You sometimes you're sitting there, if you've got very little time, you work out your moves against all the basic options if you get time. And then if they do something completely different, that's a very dangerous moment, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's a
sign. Even quiet moves can be it, because you kind of think, is there a threat in there?
Well, yeah, no, that's true. That too. So I'm sure knight takes c5 is a perfectly decent move.
But I'm dubious about it, because if Mickey wants to win after knight c5 and c4, I think the center is opened, and how can black continue to create some chances in this game?
Well, yeah. By the way, the engine had some crazy thing about taking on c5 here, and then trying to put a rook on b6 very quickly, and thought white was better. But I was, you look at the engine suggestions, I was totally sure that wasn't going to happen, because it's so kind of counterintuitive for humans.
Yeah.
c4. Yeah, I mean, black's knights are very beautiful, and you can sort of see after knight e6 and knight takes d5 why the knights compensate for the bishop pair, but that is probably all they do.
Is there any mileage in going forwards with that knight? to e4.
I guess the problem with e4 in principle is it's not a full outpost. It can be kicked out of there at the appropriate moment. No,
Yeah.
that's what would worry me. Although it's okay at the moment, it can go to c3. So, but
Right.
knight e4, if we just go rook c1 or something. I think the other nice thing about knight e6 is it's probably threatening d4, so it forces white
you've
to
got
take
more
on
pressure
d5.
here
Whereas
and
now
there. Yeah.
he's not forced to take on d5.
Okay, so takes.
Just takes.
King g3 defending.
G3, another one.
Rook e8.
Yeah.
And
now
now,
finally we get g5.
to the moment, g5.
But now the queen is traded, so I'm not sure whether it's still so powerful. I mean, one can easily trade the queen.
Wait. But the interesting move is queen g7 here.
Oh.
Instead of h6.
Instead of taking back on g6.
Okay.
And I think you can fairly quickly see this is a forced draw. And I fear you can also fairly quickly see that there's no way of improving on the forced draw. So white takes on d5.
D5.
And black has to take g6. It's funny. By the way, I had an optical illusion when I first saw this. I thought you could take on d5, but then the king zigzags back to g1 and the queen can interpose on g2.
Yeah.
So you have to do it with the bishop on d5. I think.
Yeah.
It's quite sweet. And now I think it's just a draw because there's no time for. I thought at first black might be able to do some queen h6, king moves, and then king h8 or something. That's what I was looking at. But for reasons I don't recall, but I can imagine it doesn't quite work.
Yeah, probably white has a chance, has time to go for queen f3 and then bring
I think that might be the problem. Although, well, let's just check. So king h somewhere.
king f3.
Let you make the decision again. Okay, so then if I go king h8 now?
King h8, okay.
What if queen f3?
Then I was hoping to take on d5 and go queen h5 check.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's going to be mating, is it?
Well, no, I think white can go king g1 and give the queen back to the rook, but
I'm not sure about this position, whether it's good for black.
Well, I think put it this way: I'm pretty sure black would take this if he could have got it, because you can take on. You can go queen g4 check and knight takes f4 at the end, and well, it may still be a draw, but black can have some effort along the way probably. So there must have been something else. I mean, it's clear that black had a perpetual this way.
Yeah.
But of course, the match situation meant that even taking the end game we were looking at the beginning is preferable to an immediate perpetual. I think.
Okay.
But I think the fact that black has played dynamically enough to have a move like queen g7 available there suggests to me that Mickey made a pretty decent shot at trying to win this game.
Right, and here now
this is pretty much where we joined, right?
Yeah.
Well, we had another pair of rocks off, but
we did.
These are going to happen quite soon.
Yeah, I mean, black has no way of avoiding that exchange.
Yeah, and this is where we joined it.
And a4.
e4, king f7. That's what we were looking at. And so let's see how it finished. It's actually not many more moves after this. So king f3, g5.
No, he did do g5. Okay.
The second time this game.
Yes. But it's very similar to the one we were looking at right back at the beginning.
Yeah. We had to look.
But I think we kind of figured. Yeah, of course, with the king on f7, rook h1 makes sense as a way to annoy black as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
f4. I was going to say, what happens to f4?
That the handshake.
Oh, f4, and they shook hands.
That's what they did. Yeah, f4 and shook hands.
Okay. So bishop takes f4. Rook f5 is just rook h4.
Yeah.
Is that the story? Is there another story?
Yeah, I think so. I think black can't really make any further progress.
Or maybe we go rook h7 check first, actually, put the king further back. Because if it comes to g6, we have rook h6 check and black has to repeat. So we might as well send the king back and then go rook h4 or something. Yeah.
And that was a draw.
And that was a draw. Yes. I think that was a pretty interesting game. I mean, I think that it would have been fun if black had played the queen h4 we were discussing earlier, but I'm not entirely surprised that he didn't.
Yeah. So we've seen actually same note. So both players have we've had Andrei's won twice with black. I'm trying to work it out now. Mickey, they've both won with white, and Andrei's won twice with black.
Yeah. No, I think.
Yes.
But the games you remember, Mickey was pressing in game one.
Yeah.
Andrei. I don't know. It feels to me like game 6 is the only one which felt kind of like one of the players wasn't playing as I would expect them to. As Mickey's playing game 6 is what baffled me. I thought the rest of the
probably
match,
tired or something after.
Yeah, tired and probably a bit frustrated with how the game was going.
Yeah.
I think Andrei played a very impressive match. I think you look at those moments, because it's those moments when you have to keep your cool, which are very important, I think, and he did a really good job.
And what a fantastic historic match it's been.
Indeed.
Solidarity match, UK against Ukraine. They played some games in Parliament as well, and they've played in the Ukrainian embassy and in the bank. And it's been really well organised by the team. Fascinating match to follow. Really, really great. Okay, we'll wind up there. Thanks to everyone very much for watching. Thank you, you two, Lisa and Peter.
Natasha.
Thank you.
Not over yet. Still playing tomorrow. Okay.
Oh, they are still playing tomorrow.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
we were just about to sign off there.
We're going to sign off. Well, we maybe will still. So, wonderful event, and thanks everyone very much for watching, and look forward to the game tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.